Hey everyone, welcome back. My name's dustinkreis, and today we're going to do a game discussion. We're going to talk about this game right here, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. And just finished this game, and yes, I don't even know where to start with this. My favorite Zelda of all time is A Link to the Past. So when I saw that Nintendo was going to be making a sequel to Link to the Past, I kind of got that butthole clench, like, oh shit, they're going to ruin it. And then details started to trickle out, and I was like, okay, this sounds kind of cool. And then I saw the graphics, and I wasn't too big of a fan of that. And then Nintendo just seemed to kind of not even promote it at all. It just seemed like this thing, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, you know, and nothing was really said about it. And then all of a sudden it was here, and then like the scores are just perfect, you know. Most game sites are giving it like 9s and 10s and things like that, and I am here to tell you that it deserves all of that. This is a fantastic, fantastic game. It's not going to replace Link to the Past as my favorite Zelda, because that just has too much nostalgia attached to it, but I am here to tell you that this is my number 2 favorite Zelda game of all time. Absolutely top-down brilliant game, and it really goes to show you Nintendo's kind of been doing this back to basics things with their franchises. You know, Mario with the new Super Mario Brothers games, and then 3D World is kind of a throwback as well. And it goes to show you that, you know, you don't need all of the polish and all of the glitz and the glamour of these modern AAA titles to have a fun time, because I'm here to tell you this is probably the most fun I've had this year playing a game. It's just, I don't know, I could not put it down. I could not stop playing it. I had to see it through to the end, and I'm so happy I did. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know what other praise to heap on it. This, you know, it being on the 3DS and not on the Wii U, I think a lot of people are going to think it's a lesser Zelda, or it's like the other portable Zelda games, because the portable Zelda games are usually never in the same tier as the big main series entries on the consoles. But this is just as good as those, if not better. So let's go ahead and get into it and talk about it a little bit. This is set 6 generations after Link to the Past. And I'm not going to get into which timeline it is and blah, 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 because really that timeline shit doesn't make any sense anyway. But 6 generations have passed since Link saved the Hyrule from, you know, Ganon. And there's, you know, some nastiness afoot. The current Zelda has been abducted by this guy named Yuga and turned into a painting, of all things. And it's up to, of course, our brave, intrepid hero Link to go out and rescue her. And this is one of the kind of the cool Zeldas, because the main antagonist of the game is not Ganon. Of course, sort of the spirit of Ganon, sort of Ganon's greed, makes an appearance, but it's not really Ganon you're going after this time. And there is kind of a twist at the end. Well, I won't, you know, spoil, but needless to say, the storyline really kept me going and really kept me engaged. And it is really kind of a sad Zelda in a lot of ways. You know, once you get into the Dark World, which is known as Lorule in this game, the story kind of takes on more of a somber and kind of a sad what-if scenario. And for, you know, my taste, I thought this is probably one of the most enjoyable Zelda stories, because, you know, it has this the normal Zelda goofiness and the quirkiness, but at the same time there's sort of this really kind of somber story playing out, and you kind of see, you know, what could happen if things went wrong in Hyrule. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't really. It's not really like a one-for-one sequel. It's more just kind of like, not, well, how do I want to put this? It's a sequel in that shares the same world, but it's not sort of the same story, if you know what I mean. Really, the big thing to talk about this game is the gameplay mechanics. And when I think of Zelda, this is what I think of. I don't think of Skyward Sword. I don't think of Ocarina of Time. I think of top-down perspective, running around on a map and, you know, attacking enemies and cutting down bushes and, you know, things like that. So for me, when I first put this in and started playing it, it just brought back so much of my childhood running around in Hyrule from that perspective. And if you've played A Link to the Past, you know what to expect in this game. There's some changes that actually make the game really kind of awesome. The big change is that instead of acquiring the items in the dungeons, like you have to go to the first dungeon to get the boomerang and that kind of nonsense, all the items are pretty much at your fingertips at the beginning of the game through this great system that you can just rent the items. Of course, then when you die, the items go back to the shop and you have to re-rent them again. And that's kind of a pain because it's just, you know, these Nintendo games are so wordy. It's like the first time I buy something, I don't need it explained to me. You know, well, let's rephrase that. When I first buy something, I need it explained. Okay, I get that. The 4th, 5th, 37th time I have to rebuy an item, which I didn't die 37 times. I only died 5 times. I don't need, you know, the item explained to me again. I know what a boomerang does. So it's welcoming to new players, but it also kind of speaks down to the player. Like, okay, I don't remember what the hook shot did. Thanks for reminding me. But yeah, what this does is it just opens the game up. And Zelda, the old school Zeldas, really were... I'm going to sneeze. I feel a sneeze coming. The old school Zeldas really were kind of an open world game, especially the first game. You could tackle the dungeons in any order you wanted to as long as you had the corresponding items, the correct items. As it became more of a story-driven type of a game, especially with like the Wind Waker and the more modern ones, you kind of lose that open worldness. This really brings it back in a big way, and when you get to Lorule, because it kind of follows the same pattern as Link to the Past. You know, in Hyrule, you have 3 big dungeons that will get you to the Master Sword, and then once you get to the Master Sword, you can start exploring the Dark World. And the Dark World has 7 dungeons in it. So, once you get there, you can tackle them in any order you want, as long as you have rented the correct items. And you can rent the entire shop out. That's fine. And just go off and explore. Now, there's certain items that you find throughout the course of the game, like the Power Glove, the Titan Mitt, the Pegasus Boots, those types of things that will aid you in your exploration. And I actually got really far into the game before I found the Titan Mitt and the Pegasus Boots, because I was just expecting to find them in a dungeon, and you don't. They're through the interaction with the world. So, really big on exploration and sort of doing things outside the norm, because you think you would come across these items in the dungeons and stuff, but you don't. So, yeah, the item renting really opens the game up and really makes it more of a personal experience, because it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. Choose which dungeon you want to do next. And, you know, I got through the game with the Master Sword completely powered up, the red mail, and I found all of the Miyas, which I'll explain the Miyas here in a minute. And I did that without a guide. Now, I didn't get all the heart containers, because some of them you have to do like mini games to get them, and I just didn't feel like sitting there and doing a mini game. I wanted to beat the game. But the other big gameplay aspect is the whole painting motif. And the cool thing about this Zelda is it doesn't rely as heavily on sort of a gimmick. Now, I say that and you're going to go, well, wait a minute, this whole painting thing, which what you do is you press the A button when you're against the wall, and Link turns into a 2-dimensional image that's, you know, painted on the wall. And then you can walk around the walls to get to other platforms and things of that nature. You can also go through cracks in the walls. Then when you get to the point where you can travel between the 2 worlds, you'll find these sort of glowing cracks that will take you from Hyrule to Lorule. Now I say that um, it doesn't lean on this gimmick like other portable Zeldas seem to. It seems like with Spirit Tracks and the trains, and it's just like nah. Wind Waker with the sailing. It's just like this feels like a classic. It feels like Link to the Past, but instead of just using the magic mirror to travel between the two worlds, it adds this other gameplay mechanic to the game. So it feels very natural to be doing this in this game for some reason. And when you think about it, it's almost kind of a broken thing because it makes traversing dungeons a little bit easier, sometimes a little bit harder, but yeah, it really feels like it's part of the game. It's not something that's tacked on. Like, it feels natural in this game to do this stuff. And that is phenomenal. Now, the Mia Mia thing, you have to collect 100 of these. You don't have to. It's just a side quest thing. And they're hidden, scattered all throughout Hyrule and Lowrule. There's 100 of these little snail-looking things that you have to find. And the cool thing about that is, for every 10 you collect, the mother Mia Mia will upgrade an item. And I didn't play around with the upgraded items too much because I kind of didn't upgrade my items as I went. I just waited until the end, until I had all 100. But it actually upgrades your items a lot. Like the bow and arrow turns into a spread shot where it shoots out 3 arrows instead of 1. The boomerang flies farther, The hook shot seems just to fire quicker. That's the only thing. It fires faster. And it just powers up your different items like that. The bomb has a bigger blasting radius and things like that. So this game thoroughly rewards exploration. And that's something I really should mention. Even though you feel like, yes, you've traveled this world before by playing A Link to the Past, it really is a new experience because, 6 generations have passed. The countryside is a little bit different. But it's also, there's a really big nostalgia kick of sort of traveling around in this world again. It's almost like playing one of the ROM hack Zelda games. When I was playing this, I was thinking to myself, I really hope Undead Space Monkey picked this up because he's a huge Zelda fan, and I just can't wait. I really want him to make a video on this because I just want to hear him explode about how great this game is. I say that, he's probably like, oh, I actually hated it. But yeah, from a gameplay standpoint, this is classic Zelda, and it really shows how perfect Zelda was kind of right out of the gate, Link to the Past is a big upgrade over the first Zelda, but it's not that huge of an upgrade, not like Ocarina of Time was. So it really shows that that core gameplay mechanic is still how amazing it really is. The graphics are a bit of a mixed bag for me. I like the graphics, they're very nostalgic, but I am not the biggest fan of the 3D rendered stuff. I know for the game on the 3DS, for it to work, they had to kind of do that so they can make the distance, the depth correct. I really didn't like it when I saw the first screenshots for it. I thought, oh god, that doesn't really look that great. But as you start playing the game, you really do kind of fall in love with its charm. I like that they made Link, instead of making Link look like the Wind Waker Link, he's actually like the Link to the Past Link that's in the manual. And that's really awesome. I really like the bouffant hair kind of thing that was going on with him. Really kind of took me back to that era. What else on the graphics? Yeah, they're pretty simple. It's not going to win any awards for its graphics, but for its gameplay, man, it makes it up a lot. I did use the 3D a bit, and especially some of the dungeons, like the ice dungeon, or when you're in the ore mine, and you're way up high in the air, and the bottom of the dungeon is way, like if you fall off a cliff, you're falling for quite a bit before you hit the bottom. It looked really awesome. But, playing Zelda, I kind of moved the screen around a little too much, so I didn't leave the 3D on. But it looked fine, it looked good. The music. The music is another place where this game shines. A lot of the tracks are remixed from A Link to the Past, and it's really cool to hear the remixes. One song that really stuck out with me was Skull Woods, and it's just sort of this very kind of creepy piano piece that, yeah, it really added to the atmosphere of that stage. But, you know, for me, I've played A Link to the Past so many times that a lot of the music is just ingrained in me. It's part of my, a part of who I am. So to hear these new versions of that, you know, that great soundtrack, it's both cool and maybe a little off-putting at times because you're like, oh, I like the Link to the Past version better. But, yeah, I don't know what to tell you guys. If you haven't picked this up and you like Zelda because you think it's just going to be another one of those crappy portable Zeldas, go get this. I mean, I'm hard pressed to think of a game that I've had more fun with this year. I mean, just that sense of that giddiness of getting a new piece of equipment or upgrading the sword. Like, whenever you upgrade the Master Sword, you just feel like you're a fucking badass. And it just takes me back to being a kid, playing on the Super Nintendo over there, and just falling in love with this world. Definitely one of the best games released this year. And, you know, I really hope that Nintendo keeps following this back to basics approach. You know, I would love a 2D Metroid on the 3DS. Especially after playing Cave Story 3D, it's like, why haven't they done that yet? I don't want them to have, you know, this style of graphics, because I think it just, I don't know, the 3D graphics don't really have that sense of atmosphere that those hand-drawn sprites did on the Super Nintendo. But, man, I'm telling you what, if they do that, I think they could bring the Metroid series back. But as it stands, I guess we'll have to just put up with classic Zelda. And, yeah, go buy this if you hadn't. I know Steven, he beat it before I did, and I think he's going to be trying to make a video today too. So even he is just like, you know, he's kind of thinking about holding off on it, and then I think his sister bought it for him for, I want to say Christmas. Maybe she just got it for him just for whatever. Gave it to him as an early Christmas gift maybe. But even he's like, I'm so glad I got this because it's an amazing game. But yeah, that are my thoughts. English is tough. Those are my thoughts on Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Definitely the best 3DS game this year. And I almost want to say my favorite game of the year, but I guess I really need to kind of get some distance from it. Get some distance from that nostalgic punch and really think, is this going to be my top game of the year? I don't know. We'll see. But, yeah. That's all for this, so now I just get to wait until tomorrow when Ys Celceta comes out. So, anyway, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. I'll see you next time.